Hi, welcome to the Excel Help Desk. This is the #1 place on the internet for you to get help with Excel and Excel VBA. Now, if you're watching on the replay, look in the description below the video. I've created timestamps for all of the discussions, all of the demonstrations, all of the help you can get. So go into the description, find the topic you want, and I will see you there. But if you're watching live, thank you so much for joining today. And if we're meeting for the first time, I'm Chris Mortimer. I'm an Excel content creator, real world developer and lecturer. I love bringing the powerful stuff in Excel to people like you. And I've got a little phrase, which is to your Excel success. So what does Excel success mean for you? It might mean doing your first macro. It might mean doing a nice chart. It might mean having an Excel YouTube channel. It might mean doing some great work that helps you get a promotion. I don't know, a work. Whatever your Excel success is, this is the place to be. You can get help from me. We've got tons of free videos here. Also, a great community of people who can help you out. So a massive welcome. With that said, let's see who's with us in the chat today. So we have divine presence already. Jesus, my Father, is with us. So a big welcome. And I've actually put a link in the chat to a video that might help you out there, my friend. Enjoy Golf Again is here. Well, that username does resonate with me, I've got to say, because I've tried a few sports in my life and I've kind of fallen out with them a little bit. And golf is one of them, but maybe one day I will enjoy golf again. By the way, if you're watching live, can you just let me know you can hear me and see me in the chat? Who else is with us today? Big welcome to Lee. Lee's one of our members, and Lee is well into football analysis, analyzing football data, has done some amazing work in VBA. So a big welcome to Lee, a big welcome to Nikki as well. Nikki's another one of our members. Big welcome to Jim over in Illinois. How are you doing, Jim? And Paul is with us as well, another one of our members. How are you doing, Paul? Paul's from the UK. Matthew's tuning in. Matthew says, excited for today. I'm a newbie in Excel, watching all the videos to catch up. Thanks, Chris. Absolute pleasure to have you, Matthew. And I should have said, this stream is for all levels of Excel. So whether you're just getting started, whether you're more experienced, you want to talk about VBA, you want to talk about your first formula, it's all good. In the Excel Help Desk. Who else is with us? Big welcome to Jenny. First time I've seen you in a live stream, Jenny. So big welcome to you. And I think that's everybody. Thank you, Nikki, for saying that you can see me and hear me. Thank you to Lee as well. And Thomas is with us as well. Did he enjoy golf again? When to use range versus cell. So Thomas, are you talking about VBA in particular? I think you are talking about VBA. So perhaps we'll hop into that one first, but we do have a download file today. We do have a download file. So this is kind of one of my general data sets. We've actually got a course. Don't worry, the sales pitch hasn't started yet, but we've actually got a course on how to create random data in Excel. Sounds like a random thing to do, haha, but it's something you have to do all the time. When I create training materials, I have to generate random data. When I'm testing models, I have to generate random data. When I'm creating videos, I have to generate random data. So we've got a course called Excel VBA Simulation from beginner to advanced. You can go and find it on the website. Okay, I've got our first question coming in. So Thomas, we'll deal with this. And Thomas says, thanks, yes, with VBA. So we're going to look at using dot cells versus range in Excel VBA. I'm just going to type that up so that we can put it at the bottom here so that people know what we're talking about. And here it is. A big welcome to Liju, just tuning in, and a big welcome to Henrik as well. So, yeah, let's get into this one. Okay, Tony, welcome to you. Yeah. I won't be able to pick up all the questions all the time, so you might have to just put them in the chat a couple of times. Please don't spam by just repeating the same thing, but if you just be patient with me, drop it into the chat a couple of times, and I'm sure we'll find it. So we're talking about VBA, and this is a reasonably advanced question, but in VBA, what's the most basic thing you want to do is to reference a cell to tell Excel that you want to do something to a cell. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, it's like the most basic thing you'd want to do. So how to do that? Well, let's go ahead. I've just opened the VBA editor. There's nothing special in this file, guys. It's just an Excel file, so you can work along with me. If you haven't used the VBA editor before, you can go into File and Excel Options and just make sure you you can view the developer tab. I'll actually go ahead and do that now. Options here. And then if you go to customize ribbon, and then over on the right, make sure you can view the developer tab, which is over here. Go ahead and do it now. Make sure you're working along with me. Why not learn something practical today? It's all good. You can learn live. Make sure the developer tab is visible. Now, if the developer tab is visible in Excel, you'll be able to click on it and you can go to Visual Basic. That's going to allow you to view the Visual Basic editor. And the Visual Basic editor is right here. So you've got the Visual Basic editor open. You can go to Insert and then Module. And a module is just a place where VBA code lives, because we need to organize VBA code into batches, particularly as your applications get bigger and more sophisticated. So a module is just a place for us to do that. Option explicit, won't talk about that in too much detail today. That allows us to avoid things like spelling mistakes in the programming. And I'm going to say sub range technique. We're going to try the range technique first. And this is typically the first technique people learn. I think that's because it uses a syntax that people are used to. It uses a language that people are used to, which is like A1, B1, C2, those usual cell references that people are used to. That's what we use when we use the range technique. So let's go ahead and I'm going to say range A1 here. Then I'm going to say dot value equals, let's say help desk. You can put whatever word that you want in there. Just going to go to the full screen view here so you're able to see. So this is the syntax we're looking for. And I won't do a deep technical explanation of the syntax, but I would say this syntax has to be 100% accurate. 100% accurate. If I get one thing wrong, for example, if I forget one of the speech marks here, if I forget this dot here, then it's not going to work. And the worst thing is that when things don't work in Excel, particularly in VBA, the error messages that we get are not always particularly helpful. So you really got to make sure you've got the syntax accurate there. Another thing people often forget is putting the speech marks. If we want text to appear in a cell and we're in the VBA editor, we have to put speech marks around that text. But we can go ahead now and just look in cell A1 here. I'm going to hit the play button at the top of the VBA editor. Did you see help desk appear there? Now take the time to play. Now Excel VBA is just a skill. So you've got to kind of rediscover that childlike sense of play. We used to play with toys. I like playing the drums these days. I play a bit of sport still, not golf, but I still play a bit of sport. But it's funny when you're doing those things, you get into a flow, what they call a flow state, which is not being worried about the world. We can forget all of these adult kind of neurotic tendencies we have. Just go and play. You're in a safe space. Go and play with this. So now we can say B1, for example, what's going to happen. And we can see the value going into the cell there. So it's a case of trial and error now, trying that out a few times. That works fine. And this is one of the building blocks of Excel VBA. We have a few building blocks here at Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions for VBA. And this is one of them, being able to interact with cells and change the value in cells. Okay, so let's go ahead now and let's look at the other technique. Because remember, we're looking at dot cells versus the range technique. And let me know, Thomas, this might be a bit low level, a bit basic for you so far, but let me know if this is enlightening at all. And do put your questions in the chat. Also, guys, you can go ahead and join me in the stream. Yeah, I know it's a bit nerve-wracking maybe to kind of go live or whatever, but I'm just dropping a link into the stream now. If you take that URL link, HTTPS, you can drop it into your browser. In fact, I'm just going to put it into the stream again, just the URL link, because it's not very clear that. So I'll just drop that into the stream again. That will take you backstage, what's called backstage. So it takes you to a different interface. You'll be able to see me talking away as usual. I'll be able to see you come in. So when you come backstage, just close the YouTube window. Yeah, because you don't want that open when you're in the stream. That's going to create some kind of audio loop that we don't want. Close the YouTube window, drop in backstage, then I'll drop you into the stream. Just make sure nothing embarrassing is going on behind you, anything like that. And if you've got nice, clear audio, you're fairly close to your computer, that's a real bonus as well. So you can actually join me in the stream. I'd absolutely love it for somebody to join me in the stream today. Big welcome to WC. Thanks for all the help over the years, WC. It is an absolute pleasure, and thanks for your viewership. Good to see you today. Henrik's with us as well. Henrik says, wonderful with the stream from Target Spreadsheet. We'll never forget the 30 for 30 VBA course. Yeah, thanks, Henrik. Just on the 30 for 30 course, it's 30 minutes a day for 30 days. We did it consecutively. About this time last year, we did 30 minutes for 30 days. It's all free. It's all on YouTube, and it's a 15-hour VBA course. So let's go ahead. Thomas, I'll put your question up quickly. Just wondering when using range would be preferable to sales or vice versa. Maybe it's just preference. I'll get into that in just a second, Thomas, but I'll just get the basic concepts down for people who are seeing this for the first time. So let's have a go with the sales technique. And bear in mind, these are doing, broadly speaking, the same thing. And certainly when we're doing something quite basic like this, you know, you might think, well, I don't need to know both. And it's definitely true if you're just using basic stuff. But as we'll see, if you're doing more advanced stuff like advanced position control, if you want to select a range of cells and do that dynamically, then I actually favor one over the other. Can you guess which one I'm going to favor? Maybe some fans of the channel will know. So with the range referencing technique, we use those familiar cell references, A1, B1, whatever it might be. Cells is different. Cells, we use two numbers, and it's a row index and then a column index. A row index and then a column index. When we're working in VBA, it's always rows first and then columns. Rows first and then columns, and then a positive number for rows goes down. That's because as we go down Excel, the row numbers get higher, of course, and a positive number for the cells goes to the right and counts across the spreadsheet. That's the same with offset, another one of our absolute favorites, a tiger. So we can reference cell A1 because it's the first row down, the row index, and it's the first column across. The column index, dot value, and then let's do exactly the same thing as we did before. I'm going to put help desk in here. You can put in, you know, whatever you like. So let's do it again. Let's hit the play button. And what's going to happen? I can see help desk has gone in there. And once again, you go ahead and do your play. So now Tiger's going to come in. And you can already feel some of the benefits of cells. What's going to happen now? What cell is going to change now? We've got cells 3,1 dot value. So what cell is going to change now? Now we can see A3 is changing. What cell is going to change now? Well, we're going 1, 2, 3 rows down, 1, 2, 3 columns across, cells 3,3 dot value. So what cell is going to change? Should be cell C3. Not a big deal if it's not. We'll just fix it. It's just trial and error. It's just play. So we hit play and we can see the value has gone into C3 there. So perhaps already you're beginning to feel some of the benefits of cells. For me, I do prefer the cells referencing technique for more complex operations. That's because when things get more complex, it's easier to use numbers to reference the cells rather than having to use a letter to reference the columns and a number to reference the rows, as we would do with the range technique. And we'll have a look in a second. We'll do some more work on cells in a second, and we'll build up to a more complex example. Big welcome to Bart, who's joined us in the chat. So Bart, just above in the chat, the backstage link is there. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you, Bart, if you want to come backstage. Welcome to Vyakaranam. Good to see you. A blessing straight from heaven. That's very kind of you. And that's put a smile on my face. Thank you so much. A big welcome to you. And Lee is with us. Yeah, Lee is intermediate advanced level VBA, I would say. And Lee is, I call him the poster boy of the 30 for 30 series because Lee turned up every day. Yeah, it's dead simple, really, though. Lee turned up every day. He worked consistently. And Lee's like almost a professional level programmer now. It's hard work. It's hard work, isn't it, Lee? But all you did was you turned up every day. You were just consistent for 30 days and you built this amazing skill set. So Lee's saying, yeah, that makes sense. Cells versus ranges. What I'm arguing is using numbers is an easier way to reference cells rather than using a letter and a number, particularly when we get onto more complex applications. Yeah, Bart, take your time. No rush at all. So let's build on this. Let's move to a slightly more complex application. So we will get a jump up in difficulty. If you can't follow it, don't worry. Seriously, this is a great start to your VBA learning. We've got a series on the channel called .cells for beginners, Excel VBA .cells for beginners. So if intuitively you understood cells more than this technique, go ahead and have a go at that series. It's 4 5 to 10 minute videos. You're going to love it. Okay, a more complex example here. So let's try this. So I'm going to copy this routine now. Now this is going to be cells with, I'm going to say values from spreadsheet. Just going to begin to see the power of VBA here. So I'm going to substitute in these numbers with cell reference. What? That might sound like pure madness at the moment. Does that make sense at all? I don't know. We're going to substitute for these numbers. We're going to substitute in a cell reference. I'm going to say in the spreadsheet, I'm going to say row index, and in cell B4, I'm going to say column index, just to remind me what we're doing in these cells. Alt-HOW20 on the Windows PC should give us enough room there. Now what we're going to do, we're actually going to combine these techniques together. So just take your time. Remember, you can watch this on the replay. You got the download file. Even if you can't do this in now, you can do it later. It's all good. So C3 here. So the row index cell, I've put that cell reference into the code. Can you see that? Can you see what's going to happen here? We actually call this hard-coded values. It's a programming term. When we have numbers in the code, they're difficult to change, aren't they? You know, it's difficult to go into the VB editor and change things every time. So it's a hard-coded, it's a static solution. If we put something that we can easily change into the code, like a cell reference, it now becomes a dynamic solution. And we want to move towards more dynamic coding. So we've got B3. This should be C3 there. So there's a mistake I made. Not a big deal. Make mistakes all the time. Range C3.value. And then the other reference, what's that going to be? Can you see where I'm going with this? Control V here. That's going to be C4. So can you see where I'm going? And if I'm going to put 5, going back into Excel here. I'm going to put 5 here and 5 here. Okay, and I'm going to say, what cell will tiger appear in now? Put that question in the comments there. What cell will tiger appear in now? Yeah, Tom, I can see you backstage. I'll bring you into the stream in just a second, okay? Yeah, we're going to have our first guest on in just a second. So if you give me a couple of minutes, Tom, I'll finish this demo, and then we'll get involved. What cell will tiger appear in now? Can you see? Or can you guess? So we've got 2 5s here. Okay, let's give it a go. Well done, Lee, and well done, Jenny, as well. We're saying E5. Why is it E5? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across. So I'm going to go ahead, play the routine now, and I can see tiger appeared in cell E5. So just a taste there. We've got 2 referencing techniques, and then I'm arguing when you want to do more complex things, and this is just a bit of a taste of how complex we can go. The cells technique for me is probably the more useful one. So I hope that helps our original poster. Yes, it was Tom. And is this the Tom backstage? We'll see in just a second. But we've got our first guest who's going to join us in just a second. I'll just deal with this question quickly. I built a model to compare 36 variables, wow, for comparison between diesel versus electric operation. Thanks to you. Fantastic stuff. So Vyakaranam, fantastic stuff. And really good to hear about your success stories. Right. We're going to bring Tom in now. So let's go. Let's take this out. And then let's bring Tom in. Okay, Tom, how are you doing?
Thank you. I first live stream, so thanks for helping out.
That's a pleasure. That's a pleasure. And was it your question originally about range versus cells, or was that something?
Yeah, I was hopping on. I was trying to give Enjoy Golf Again some credit. I think he or she might have asked it first, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your 30 for 30. I've been watching your stuff for a couple of years now. So thank you for everything.
That's really nice to hear. That's yeah. Thanks very much, Tom. And what point are you at? I mean, what role is Excel playing in your career at the moment?
So I'm a civil engineer. I try to, use VBA to kind of personalize and, kind of streamline some calculations that I perform on a routine basis. Really try to automate everything. Very dynamic, Chris, right? Try to make things dynamic, not hard coding.
100%. Absolutely, 100%. And has it had an impact in your work so far, VBA, or what impacts has it had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's helped me speed things up. Again, it helps me automate a lot of tasks, and I save a lot of time.
Fantastic stuff. Very good. So tell me, what has been a breakthrough you've had recently? Obviously, you've been learning VBA, but we talk about punch the air moments on the channel. Was there a particular formula or a particular technique or something that clicked for you that you want to share with the help desk?
Definitely, your videos on the for loops have helped me a lot. So, I mean, sometimes it's, in Excel, it's not just as easy as dragging down a formula. You need to do different applications for, different conditions. And I've gotten a lot better at, for loops for each loops. And that's, I don't know. So sometimes, like you watch these videos and, you'll make progress and you'll hit a wall, but, you come back to it and all of a sudden like, oh, that clicked. And you can apply it, and it's very rewarding when that code works. And yeah, so again, thanks for everything, and I appreciate all the effort you put into this.
That's a pleasure. Yeah, just to pick up on that point, it's a great point. It's like I always say, learning's not linear, is it? It doesn't just go on a nice smooth path. Excel learning, it's very bumpy, and you feel you have long periods where you plateau, but then it's like things can just click, 2 or 3 things synergize together, and you just make like a massive leap in terms of your learning. So I think that will resonate with a lot of people. Awesome, Tom. So are you going to stay in the chat?
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the chat. This is my first live stream, so it's I wasn't sure if I should be backstage or on the YouTube page, but
no, that's great. You've worked it out. Yeah, Tom, just quickly, can you just describe how you got into the stream? Because I've never experienced joining someone else's stream, but did you just click on the link and then it took you backstage?
Yeah, so there were 2 links in the YouTube channel in the comments. So the first one gave me an error message, and then the second link brought me here. It looked like a crisper video. So awesome.
Okay, good. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Tom, and definitely, we've got much more to come on the channel. So yeah, keep following the videos, and I wish you the best of luck. Yeah.
All right, keep it up.
Okay, cheers, everybody. Tom. See you soon. Bye. Nice one. So big thanks to Tom, our first ever guest on the Excel Help Desk. Fantastic stuff. So the link that Tom followed to join us live here on the Excel Help Desk, I've just put that in the chat. So if you want to drop in, ask me a question, very happy to do that for you. Otherwise, we'll continue with our little VBA demonstration. We've got the range techniques and the cells technique. I've also got a question about using the and or functions, which Tony asked at the beginning. So Tony Lamar, I'm not sure if you're still with us, but is there anything specific you wanted to do with the and or functions that I might be able to explain it with reference to, a real world problem? Good. We had a couple of questions come in. So thank you to Enjoy Golf again, once again. This is Sam, and Sam is living in Southern California. That sounds like a decent life, doesn't it? A golf professional in Southern California. Fantastic stuff. We did have a question come in from WC as well, and I can see that Paul and Nikki have already answered this question, but WC says, does the personal version of Office 365 provide VBA functionality? Yes, it absolutely does. I would say don't confuse Office 365 with Excel Online. There's a bit of confusion there. Excel Online is the version of Excel that you open up in your web browser. If you get an Excel folder, if you get an Excel file via email, and you're using Outlook, then you might have an option to open it in Excel Online, for example. Now, VBA does not work in Excel Online. There's actually a different programming language that they're going to build into Excel Online. But with Office 365, you get the desktop version of Excel, which in my view is certainly the most powerful version of Excel. I think for some time, it's going to be the version of Excel that most people are using. So you have to use the desktop version, of course, not the online version of Excel. Very good. Can't see any questions coming at the moment. So we'll go back into our VBA demonstration. So the file I'm using, by the way, you can download this file. The link is in the description below this video. So we're going to move on to what if we wanted to select a range of cells? Okay, let's do this. So select range with dot cells. I call this technique dot cells. So what if we wanted to select a range of cells? How would you do that? You know, so far we've just selected a single cell. So how would we go about selecting a range of cells? What's the concept? You know, at Tiger, we always try to get the concept clear. So what's the tool that's going to allow us to do this? Any ideas? Enjoy Golf again says, can you use and or with a case? Or is it only used with if, then, else? If we're talking about VBA, Sam, I believe it is only with if, then, and else. So you could say, if this is happening and that's happening, you want to do something. If this is happening or this is happening, then you want to do something. You can do those things in Excel VBA. Quick question here again from Via Karanam. Would you prefer Excel or LibreOffice? I would prefer desktop Excel. I prefer desktop Excel because it comes with the VBA programming language, which is the most practical computer programming language, in my opinion. Not the most powerful, the most practical. It's the one with which you're going to have most real world impact, in my opinion. So that's why I'd go for desktop Excel every time. But if you did want to do something very collaborative, so if you have multiple people working on the spreadsheet at the same time, I'll go for Google Sheets, as Paul says, but then you don't get the option of using VBA. So as always, you know, there's never a perfect solution. You've got to understand the pros and the cons here. How would we go about selecting multiple cells here? Well, the foundational concept we talk about is range, range, range. I'm just going to type it into the VBA editor here. If we want to select a range of cells, then first we say range to Excel to tell Excel that we want to work with a range. Then we say range, range. And the first of those two ranges is the starting point of our selection. The second of those two ranges is the end point of our selection. So we've got the range, range, range concept. We've also got the cells referencing method that we've been using. Let's combine them together to select multiple cells at the same time. So this is really challenging. I didn't think we'd get this far on the help desk, but if you can understand this, I think it might unlock a lot of potential for you with Excel VBA. And Paul is absolutely on the money here. The good old 3 R's, absolutely. Range, range, range. Let's give it a go. So here's our first range. And then the second range is the starting point of our range. Now, we're not actually going to use, at the risk of massively confusing you, we're not going to use the range syntax at this point. We're going to use cells. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. And then my challenge for you is, what selection is going to be selected, if that makes sense, once we run this code? Can you see that syntax problem? So because I've got an additional comma in there, Excel's saying I don't like that. Excel, unfortunately, doesn't say you've accidentally put a comma in there. It doesn't even say there's too many commas. It doesn't even tell you the word comma. It'll just tell you that there's an error. So a bit annoying about computer programming, but I've got to have a lot of discipline when we're doing our computer programming here. So my question for the chat is, what range will this select? When we execute this line of code, what range will it select? Okay, let's see. And just while you're thinking about that, we do have a really quite excellent, I would say, Excel course, Excel basics course. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, yeah, I know a bit of Excel, you know, maybe I've had a bit of success with VLOOKUP. I know I can do some things, but there's some things I really struggle with. I think a lot of professionals feel like that about Excel. It's time to rebuild your whole foundation. I would say it's time to take a step back, sit down with someone like me who knows what they're doing and rebuild your whole Excel foundation. That's what we do in the Excel basics course. I'll put the link in the chat here, and it's 27 15-minute videos. They're structured around the 4 real-world applications of Excel, and it's going to help you rebuild your Excel foundation. As I said, move you towards your Excel success, whatever that might be. So I've just put the link in the chat. You can check it out. Now, for the duration of the stream, there's a discount code, which is HelpDesk15. HelpDesk15. I know we do have a couple of people in the chat who have the Excel Basics course, and you can join them. And it's, if you like the way I teach, you like you know, the ideas we have here on Tiger, you're going to absolutely love our Excel Basics course. Discount code today gets you 15% off. So what range will this select? Very good. Yeah, Lee's with us. A1 to C3. Jenny 2, well done. A1 to C3, very good. And yeah, I'm really pleased that people seem to be understanding the basic concepts here. So we can go ahead now. I'm just going to clear out what we've got in the spreadsheet. We can go ahead now and hit play, and we can see A1 to C3 is selected now. So once again, you can now go ahead and play. So what range is this? Well, cells 2, 2, that's 2 rows down, 2 columns across. So that's B1. That's B1, and 3, 3 is C1. So this should be B1 to C1. Okay, and there it is. And then let's say, let's try one more. I'm going to go 2, 5, 3, 3 here. What's going to happen now? And we can see, yeah, now the starting point is actually kind of moved past the end point now, but you can see still works perfectly fine there. So there's the different selection methods, and particularly the cells method. And you can see once we work with multiple cells and we use range, 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 then the cells method just works really nicely there. I'm going to do one more challenge now. I'll be really impressed if you get this one. C3 to C4. Let's have row index. And then column index here. Let's bring these back. So I'm going to run our third macro here. Column index. Okay, I'm going to say, and between, let's say run between 3 and 6 here. Okay, I'm going to drop that formula down. Then I'm going to put calculate in here. So here's a question for you. So when I run this routine, what range is now going to be selected? Ragul, welcome to the stream. You're saying how to call API. I haven't done a huge amount of work with APIs in Excel, but hopefully there'll be somebody in the chat who has. If you can give me a little bit more information about your query, I'll see if I can help you a little bit more. Okay, Vyakaranam says, goal seek was amazing. I could solve a cubic equation with ease. Yeah, goal seek in Excel, you know, if you've got a problem that's well defined in terms of its parameters, then goal seek, yeah, is a very nice optimization method in Excel. And Abhishek is with us. Big welcome to Abhishek. And how are you doing? So what's going to happen now when we run this routine? Well, because we've combined random numbers into this routine, you can see the cell is the value is appearing randomly in the spreadsheet, and then you could just see, because we overwrote our formula, Excel is now, we now got our error message because we're trying to use text with cells. Cells is looking for a number, it's looking for the row index, we're putting text in. That's why we're getting our error. Yeah, Nikki says, yeah, I've got the Excel Basics course. It's really improved my Excel practice. So it's going to be an amazing reference to refer to in the future. Yeah, thank you very much, Nikki. Full disclosure, you know, Nikki does work for us occasionally here at Tiger. So full disclosure, but yeah, we've had lots and lots of good feedback about the Excel course, and it's a reference. It is a reference for you going forward. You get this PDF file with it, everything summarized. We break down all the shortcuts, all of the learning outcomes. So yeah, it's a great reference for you going forward. Mahir, welcome Mahir, how are you doing? Abhishek says, can you please give me VBA code for slicers or filters? Interesting. So Abhishek, what are you saying here? Are you saying you want VBA code to create the slicers? Are you saying you want VBA code to put the filters on? Sounds interesting. All of that is possible. All of that is possible. I would also say it sounds like quite complicated code. So is it something you need VBA for? You know, I'd usually say I'd either be using slicers or I'd be using VBA, because they're kind of doing similar things, aren't you? A slicer allows you to manipulate a data set and filter out some of the rows. I love slicers. Really nice visual feature. I've built them into plenty of dashboards I've done. But VBA is almost like an alternative. It's almost like an alternative to slicers, because we can just have some VBA buttons that you click, which are a bit like custom slicers, and they can have the same effect. So you'd have to tell me exactly what you mean there. Bigger welcome to Mahir, tuning in from Bangladesh. This is great advice here from Paul. Paul is saying, if you're unsure of any code, just record the macro. Absolutely. And this is great advice. Yeah, if you don't, well, what would you do? If you don't know what some code is, we've just had the question about the slicer code. Well, you've got a few options. You know, a good option is to go online, as long as you can be selective about the sources that you follow, because the code is not necessarily going to be of the highest quality. You can go online, but a great option is to generate the code in the VBA editor. Generate the code in the VBA editor. And this is another reason why I love Excel, because we have the facility to generate the code there. Okay, Tom's got to get going, but a big thank you to Tom today. Yeah, so Tom joined us in the stream earlier. So I've got an idea for what we can do next. I'd like to do some demonstrations with if and or, the formulae, I believe, because I've had some requests about that. But what do you want me to demonstrate next in this video? And thank you to Bart. Bart's just dropped a link into the stream. If you want to join me backstage, you can just follow this link and we can have a chat backstage. Good. So can't see any questions coming in. So let's do a bit of practice with if, or, and, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me know in the chat. Are you using or, and? You using these functions, if, or, and? Let's have a look. Question here from Kolovitz. Big welcome. Tell people how they can help themselves. Show them the Microsoft Docs website. Yep. All of the internet is free, guys. You can go wherever you want to go on the internet. And yeah, the Microsoft website, of course, has documentation about how to use the Microsoft products. Now, is that the best documentation? I'm not sure if it is, but they certainly have documentation and it might suit your learning style. So definitely head over there. Good. Let's just go ahead and we're going to start with, we're going to go back to our sheet here. What might we want to know here? Okay, I'm going to go for a question here. So what projects are managed by I'm going to say Betty and are overdue? It's a typical question that you might want to answer, and the if, and, or formulae are going to help us here. By the way, this file you can download. There's a link in the description to download this file, and you can download it and work along with me. So at Tiger, yeah, we always start with a real world question. I'm a practicing Excel VBA consultant. spend more time than doing YouTube videos. So I only really teach stuff that I actually use in the real world. So how would you go about this? Well, let's think conceptually first. We've got this idea of conditions. Whenever we're talking about an if formula, it's called a conditional statement. So we're looking for something to be happening, and then if it is happening, we're going to do something. If it's not happening, then we're not going to do something. That's the concept of conditions. So I'd say look at this sentence and what are the conditions and how many conditions are there? You know, what are the conditions and how many conditions are there? Well, a project being managed by Betty, which is this column, that's one condition, and a project being overdue, that's the second condition, and that's here in column D. So I'd say always take the time when you begin with, always take the time to talk out loud what you're trying to do. I literally walk around this office and my dog sits on the sofa and stares at me thinking, here he goes again. I just walk around and I try to understand, what's going on. Try to talk it through. In our kitchen, have you got a kitchen that has a kitchen island? Yeah. We've got this little kitchen island in our kitchen. You know what a kitchen island is? It's just a little surface. So we have a dinner on there and stuff. My wife comes downstairs and I'm just walking around the kitchen. I'm just walking around the kitchen island. Yeah. It's because I'm just thinking conceptually about what I'm trying to do. It might be a VBA job. But my point is, if it's not clear in your own head how something's going to work, the technical stuff doesn't matter. The formulae don't matter. What you know in Excel doesn't matter because the concept isn't clear. It's like you're a builder with no plans, for example. Thank you to Yogesh. So Yogesh says, thank you for amazing knowledge. Need to learn VBA and macro because it's necessary requirement for my job. I have a week for the same preparation. Yogesh, really, really appreciate that. And this, by the way, guys, is a super chat. So in the chat, you can see a little $ or something, and you can make a little payment, and I will definitely read out your comments if you do that. So thanks very much. So how would we go about doing this? So first, let's say is project. Okay, let's just do it all in one column, actually. So Alt-HOW here, 20. Okay, is project managed by Betty and overdue? In fact, I'm going to do this one cell at a time. Alt-HOW, enter F4 and F4. Is project overdue? And then is project managed by Betty and overdue. Now, I know there's people in the chat saying, why doesn't he just get on with it? Why doesn't he just get on with it? You know, yeah, you could write this very quickly. I could write this formula pretty quickly. I wouldn't get it right first time, but I could mess about with it and do it in like 10 seconds, probably. Okay, maybe 20 seconds. That's just not how I work. I do things. This is how slowly I work when I work on my projects. I do it step by step, making sure I understand it at each step. I'll just take a question quickly. Kovalit says, what to use when would be interesting to know from you as a pro? When normal VBA array, when array lists, collections and dictionaries, and so on. Kovalit, that's a very good question. Could you be more specific? Have you got a specific example that you're thinking about? And I'll try to answer that question next. Can you think of a specific situation recently where you thought, should I use this or should I use that? But that's certainly a question we can cover. Okay. Paul, you cheeky monkey. Paul says 30 seconds with your typos. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think my typing is very efficient at all. We'll get into this in just a second. Right. Back into the comments here. Okay, is the project managed by Betty? So how would we do this? With an if statement. So if this cell equals, okay, I'm going to type this in manually, and we do need the speech marks, of course. So if E5 equals Betty, then we're going to say yes. And if not, we're going to say no. So remember our conceptual thinking, yeah? Before we did anything, we spoke it through. You did your laps of the kitchen, I did my laps of the office, and we got it clear in our own head first. That means when I'm doing the formula building, it's easier. So with the if statement, we have to articulate a condition first, which Excel calls a condition. No, it doesn't, because that would be simple. Excel calls it a logical test, a logical test. So is this thing happening? Does E5 equal Betty? If it does, then the logical test is true, and Excel will go to this part of the formula, which is value if true. And that's what Excel will do. In this case, we just want to display the text yes. In the same way, or in a different way, if the logical test is not met, Excel will go to value if false and do the second part of the formula, which is displaying no. And just note, we've got the speech marks around the text. We've got the speech marks around the text. You do need the speech marks there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm just going to drag these down. And then I'm going to go ahead and do some testing. So what are we expecting? Well, this project is managed by Biff, so that's a no. This project is managed by Betty. So that's a yes. Betty, a yes. Luna, no. Okay. So it seems to be working fine. Seems to be okay. And then we'll go ahead, and our next question is the project overdue? So the same formula, the same setup, it's just practice, repetition. You know, Excel's just like a sport or learning a musical instrument. I'm sorry, I always say this. People who watch the channel, I'll sound like a broken record, but repetition is so important. If you build a formula and it works, Paul's laughing now because I'm making my typos. If you build a formula and it works, delete it and build it again. Delete it and build it again. That repetition, that muscle memory, that's going to move you towards professional levels. Seriously. Okay, so holding down the shift key here and down arrow and then control D, autofill down. So there, I brought the formula down just using the keyboard. Okay, and I can see this project's overdue. Do my testing now, and this is overdue. This is overdue. So this row would actually be interesting to us, and this row would be interesting to us too, because both of our conditions are met. The project is managed by Betty, and the project is overdue. Good, just into the chat quickly here. Thank you very much to Lee. Lee says, breaking things down, making sure the student understands it. It's why I love the teaching. Thanks very much, Lee. Really appreciate that. I think, you know, it's definitely not for everybody, the Tiger way. That's definitely true. You can look at the YouTube comments. Yeah, people say it's too slow. People say, why are you just talking? But it does suit some people. You know, I only try to serve the people who really appreciate that that way of learning. I do it because I appreciate it myself. I didn't learn Excel until I was about 28, I think 27, 28. I really started learning Excel properly. So I learned it in a very manual way. And I learned it on a master's course when there were like finance people, there were mathematicians on there who were just whizzing around Excel. So seriously, I know what it's like to be like the slowest in the class. Jenny says, I agree, it's the best way to learn. Helps us to troubleshoot when problems arise and solve things logically. Absolutely. So Jenny's just mentioned one of the Excel meta skills, what we call the Excel meta skills. They're not formulae, they're not techniques. They're these overarching skills that make everything easier. Overarching skills that make everything easier. So if you can debug, that's going to boost all of your Excel skills. Because if you can debug, you can do trial and error, you can do play, you're going to solve your problems eventually. Yeah, so that's one of our meta skills. So that's a great comment there from Jenny. Okay, good. Coverlet, I'm just going to read your comment quickly. I meant to say normal tables of rows and columns, so two-dimensional arrays. If you want to load the data to your worksheet and if you want to filter and sort it. So for all types of things, copying, erasing, filter, and sorting inside the memory. Yeah, Coverlet, I will talk generally about what I think, what the strengths and the weaknesses of the different approaches are. I will talk about that, okay? I'll do that after this demonstration. Good. So we've got our if formula in, our if formula working. So now we're going to get onto our and or operators, our and or operators. So in this column, the project is managed by Betty and it's overdue. Now, just another comment here. You could do this formula in one cell. Yeah, You could put all of the conditions in one formula. That would give you a long formula, but this is something else that on Tiger, we don't really like. I've got to say, I don't really like long formulae. And it breaks my heart when the Microsoft Excel Twitter account says, tell us about your longest formula, as if it's some kind of achievement to have long formulae in a spreadsheet. The truth about long formulae is they're difficult to calculate. They're difficult for Excel to calculate. They slow down Excel calculation. They're difficult for you to understand. They're difficult for anybody else using the spreadsheet to understand. So I always prefer using multiple columns. Use multiple columns with multiple short formulae. Multiple columns with multiple short formulae. How do you guarantee you can do that? With good planning. Yeah, part of the planning process when you're building a spreadsheet should be, what columns do I need? Yeah, what columns do I need? What should all the columns headers be? When I set up a spreadsheet, that's the first thing I do. I don't put a formula in, don't put VBA in. I'll probably do 3 or 4 programming sessions before I actually do any programming, because it will just be visual stuff and planning, getting all the column headers right, things like that. Okay, so project is managed by Betty and overdue. So if, now we know we've got the logical test or the condition with if, but we want 2 conditions. We want 2 conditions. Now that's where and is going to help us. So and allows us to articulate 2 conditions here. So I can use the helper column now. If G5 equals yes, and so comma, and just see we've gone to the second part of the and formula now. These prompts that Excel gives us are so helpful. And this column equals yes. H5 equals yes. There we go. Now we've got to close the bracket. That's what I always forget to do. Just keep your eye on the prompts here. Just watch the prompts. When I close the bracket, Excel moves up a level in terms of how it's displaying these formulas. It moves up a level. So now we're back in the if formula. Yeah. So we've opened and closed the bracket on the and formula. We've got 2 conditions in there. So now I can hit comma and Excel is asking for the value if true. So I'm going to say this one. And then if it's false, I'm just going to say nothing. How do you hit nothing? In Excel, you can just put 2 speech marks with nothing in there. So this is the formula, and this is an example of how you would use the and operator, the and function, to express the idea of 2 conditions here. Okay, so doesn't look like there's a formula in this cell, does it? But there is a formula. It's just returning that blank value. So now I'm holding down the shift key and down arrow, Control D here to autofill down, and we can see we've got our formula here. So this one is managed by Betty and overdue. This one is managed by Betty and overdue. And this one is managed by Betty and overdue. A quick example of how you combine together if and the and formula there. Now, if your logic was, is the project managed by Betty or is the project overdue? It's fairly simple. You'll just change this to or. And I'll change this back because it's not what we want. You'll just change that to or. And that's going to mean if one of the 2 conditions are met, we're going to go to value if true. If one of the 2 conditions is not met, is that right? I'm not sure if I'm expressing that right logically, but you'll get the idea. We've got the or formula as well there. So I'm going to just hit enter there. Okay, good to see the questions coming in. I'll go through the chat in just a second, but yeah, just let me tell you briefly about the Excel Basics course. So if you like the way we go through stuff at Tiger, you're going to love the Excel Basics course. It's going to help you answer that question. What do I need to know in Excel? What don't I need to know in Excel? What can you safely ignore in Excel? And believe me, you can safely ignore a lot in Excel. There's so much noise out there. I only use a subset of tools in Excel, and I go through it all in the Excel Basics course. You're going to love it. If you like this kind of explanation, you're going to love it. It's 27, 15-minute videos. If you go for the consultant level, there's different levels depending on what you want. So if you go to consultant level, you get a nice PDF. It has a learning framework for each session, the learning outcomes, the shortcuts, all that good stuff. We've got a discount code today. It's going to close, I think it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock today, and you get 15% off. We've never had 15% off before. Not sure if we will again, so go ahead and go ahead and do that. And Samia, does the basic course cover VBA and to what detail? Yes, it does. We talk about the 4 applications of Excel. Can I remember them now? I hope so. They're data input, data analysis, data modeling, and data automation. Data automation. That's where you've got a manual task in Excel. We've all been there. You've got a manual task in Excel and you want to automate it. So, you know, you're copy pasting stuff around. We've all done that, haven't we? Copy pasted stuff around, whatever it might be, separating data into rows, whatever it might be. VBA allows you to do that at the click of a button. We have a VBA module in the Excel Basics course. It's 7 15-minute videos, and we work through a real world task, including some of the stuff we did today on range and dot cells, loops, conditional statements, all of the stuff you need to start automating those tasks with Excel VBA. That is included in the Excel Basics course. So you can go ahead and get your 15% discount today. Question from WC here. Could you briefly describe which of your courses is for whom? Yeah, great question. Trying to figure which makes the most sense for someone using it for a decade at a basic level. Well, thanks for the question, WC. And I would recommend the Excel Basics course because even if you've been using Excel for some time, it's like the fact, like with golf for me, the longer I played golf, the worse I got. Yeah, I don't know what happens, but the longer I played golf, the worse I got. The fact you've been doing something for a long time doesn't mean you're going to get good at it. You know, bad habits creep in, particularly with Excel, because nobody actually learns Excel properly. You know, we don't learn it at school. You don't get a nice outline of the things you need to know and the things you don't need to know. So I would suggest, that's why I call it rebuild your Excel foundation. Even for advanced people, I've had very advanced people do the course, people with PhDs and stuff. You can see a testimonial on the website from somebody who's got a PhD and works with data all the time. You need to take a step back and revisit some of those practices, some of those things that you're using you don't need to use. There's better things for that job. So on the Excel Basics course, we take a step back and view everything holistically, identify the different applications of Excel, the 4 applications, and then build a toolkit around those specific applications. So if in doubt, I'd totally recommend the Excel Basics course. The other courses we have an advanced VBA course, which is Excel VBA simulation from beginner to advanced. If you're wondering how I generate these random data sets, I do that using I've got various simulation models I use to do that. You know, I don't type this all manually. I've got models that create massive data sets, and you can configure them all in all kinds of different ways. That's just because I've had to do it so many times in my job. There's some advanced VBA techniques. That's called Excel VBA simulation from beginner to pro. We also have a membership program. If you're like, I don't want a course, I want a community of people to hang out with and to get my Excel questions answered, that's called Members Monday. That's £13 a month. And we've got our members in the chat today. Paul's one of our members. Bart is in the chat, is one of our members. So it depends. It depends what you want to do. But if in doubt, I'd say go for the Excel Basics course. Good. Just going to work through the chat here. Oh, big welcome to Shavi. Shavi says, hi. How are you doing, Shavi? Nice to have you with us today. Yeah, Colivet, I'm getting to your question in a second. Good. Just going to work down here. And Jenny, yeah, good shout here. So Jenny's saying, yeah, you could use the ifs plural formula rather than using if and if you want to specify multiple conditions. I think that's available from Excel 2016 onwards, the ifs formula. Good. And Vyakaranam says, yeah, I want the count of those projects that are overdue and managed by Betty. How would you do that then? I would do that using a count if formula here. I'm just going to put it in COUNTIF, so range and then criteria. So holding down the shift key, comma, and then specify what you want COUNTIF to count, and then enter. We can see there's 3 projects that are overdue there. So to prove that, let's go to another one of Betty's projects. Poor Betty. And make them overdue, and you can see that's now ticked over to 4. Can you see those Excel formulae working together? We've actually got a chain of 4 formulae working together. Now, I would suggest typically, if people had that question, they'd think, I need 1 formula to do it. Yeah. More often, you need a chain of simple formulae linked together to do it. We've got two basic if formulae. We've got our if formula with the and operator to specify the two conditions, and we've got the COUNTIF formula there that's doing the counting. So a good example of a simple Excel model there. Good, great, thank you. Bart's put the link in the chat there to the simulation course. Thank you. And yeah, Karanam, poor Betty indeed. And Paul says, Paul's not taking any prisoners today. Paul's saying maybe it's time to sack Betty. Very good. Okay, let's get on to this question. Okay, what should you use to do different jobs in Excel? Let's go on to this question. I've just typed that into the chat here. Now, what should we use to do different jobs? Let's go to an exciting new view here. So the way I view Excel, guys, like, I'm not an Excel expert, okay? I just want to make that clear. I don't claim I know everything about Excel. I'm not an MVP. I'm not endorsed by Microsoft. What I do have is a ton of real-world experience, and I think I've got as much real-world experience of Excel projects as anybody on YouTube, of actually doing Excel work for real human beings and then getting paid for it. I think I've got as much experience as anybody. So what I use in Excel is not based on everything that's in Excel. It's based on what's been useful for me over the years. And I've tried lots of different things, okay? So these are basically these are the things I recommend you learn, okay? I recommend you learn Excel formulae for modeling in particular. And we've got an example on the stream of a simple Excel model here. I recommend you learn formulae for data analysis. So data analysis is where you have a data set, and we've just done a simple data analysis here. I recommend you learn a set of techniques for data input, yeah, which nobody ever talks about. It's not a very glamorous topic, but if you have good data input control, that means you have good quality data, and that means you don't need to do data cleansing. So you don't need Power Query and everything else to do data cleansing. So I recommend you learn some data input techniques, which is data validation, things like drop-down menus. And then I recommend you learn techniques for automation, which for me means Excel VBA. And if you would say to me, what's had most impact on your customers in your career, it has been automating jobs using Excel VBA. So they're the applications, they're the tools I recommend you learn. That's pretty much everything I use, yeah? And once again, I don't claim to know all of Excel. I've never said I'm an Excel expert on the channel. You know, people might say that in the comments. You know, I don't care really what you say. I have a toolkit that works for me. They're the things that I use in the toolkit. A couple more things, you know, kind of worthy of a mention. Power Query for me is an interesting option for certain VBA jobs, only for certain VBA jobs. Now, there's a lot of people on the internet saying, now we've got Power Query, we don't need VBA. There's people on the internet saying, now we've got Power BI, we don't need VBA. There was even somebody recently, oh, you triggered me now. There was even somebody recently saying, now we have XLOOKUP, we don't need VBA. VBA works on a higher order of magnitude, yeah? So I'd say if you've got Power Query, it's like having a bike. If you've got something else, it's like having maybe a slow car. But if you've got VBA, it's like having a spaceship, yeah? I can't go to Mars on a bike, yeah? I could probably go to Mars in my spaceship, okay? It's a silly analogy, I know, but it's the only way to illustrate the power of VBA. It's on the next level, yeah? But if you haven't learned VBA, you don't want to learn VBA, Power Query is helpful for certain VBA jobs, notably data cleansing, particularly where you want to bring data together. So you want to collate data from multiple files, or you want to bring data in from an online data source, Now, this is useful at the moment because lots of people are wanting to work remotely at the moment. So they want multiple people interacting with the same file. We're dealing with this on one of our projects at the moment. So we have a Microsoft form, or it might be a Google form. People use the form to input information. We then download that via Power Query. There's a data link that brings the data into the file. So I'd also add Power Query as useful for certain things. But that's all I know. And I don't know the person who asked the original question. I don't know if that asked your question. I think your question was more technical. Yeah, Kolovitz, I think your question was more technical than that, to be honest, but I can only answer it, according to my real world experience. I'm not a particularly technical guy. I've got a skill set that's focused on creating real world value. So that's what I'd recommend you learn. If that resonates with you, it's all covered in the Excel Basics course, which has a special discount today. Link is in the description below. Good points from Paul. Yeah, what you use depends on what you're wanting to achieve. Absolutely. And just one simple question here. Whatever you're doing in Excel, you're trying to do one of four things. And these are the basic foundational things we do in the Excel Basics course. Sorry to mention that again. You're trying to do data input, data analysis, data modeling, or automation. Try to answer that question first. Yeah. Do you have a spreadsheet where you're logging data? The number one use of Excel is to log data. That means you're doing data input. Do you have a spreadsheet where you've got some data in it and you want to analyze the data? That's data analysis. Do you have a spreadsheet where you want to create relationships between different variables, generating odds? For example, we've got football guys in the chat today. They have models where they put data in, and there's a simple, what is effectively an algorithm. There's a simple chain of formulae that generates odds. That's Excel modeling. That means you need formulae to know the modeling. And then the fourth application is automation, which means you've got a really manual job copying stuff around. You want to automate that at the click of a button. That means you need VBA. First, answer that question. What are you actually trying to do? What are you actually trying to do? Good. Tech car info. You're asking for subscribers. We will probably boot you out, I'm afraid. If you're asking for subscribers. Bart, that's tech and car info. Tech and car info. Haranam, is VBA being replaced with Python? Yeah, another great question. I did a stream for another YouTube channel actually a couple of weeks ago, but I also released a video about 5 weeks ago. I'm so sorry, I'll get your name right. Haranam. I will. Bart, could you put that video link in the chat, please? It's should you learn Excel? Should you learn VBA in 2021? Should you learn VBA in 2021? So I explain it all in that video. Should you learn Excel VBA in 2021? My view is nothing can replace VBA because VBA comes with Excel. VBA comes with Excel. We saw in the stream, and you can go back to the beginning of the stream, we saw in the stream how accessible VBA is. This is just one benefit. It lives in Excel. Yeah. So if you're in my situation, you're doing work for other people, and this is an important conversation. Maybe you're doing work for yourself. If that's the case, you can use what you want. But I think all analysts should try to work in a way that means other people can use their work. So you can share your work. So you can do videos if you want. So you can do work for other people, which means you might get paid. Yeah. This is how my job started. I started doing VBA jobs for other people. I think if I'd been using Python, my work wouldn't have the portability that Excel has. The fact the work is portable means lots of people can use it. It's easy to use. That's going to increase the impact of your data analysis. Okay, that for me is the basic argument. Python's more powerful than VBA. Yeah, but let me tell you, let me ask you, what car do you have on your drive? Yeah, if you have a car, I don't know. But if you're going to the shops, to do shopping, you don't need a Formula One car to go to the shops. In fact, that would be inconvenient. VBA learned properly, and the key thing is people don't learn it properly. Learned properly is just mind-blowingly powerful. And I have, like tomorrow, one of my customers is going to run a process that we've used for about 5 years now. So customer of mine for about 5 years. He was doing this process daily. It took him 4 hours. It took him 4 hours to do this process. It now takes like 2.5 minutes. Yeah. That to me is a good enough gain. I'm not then saying, can we get it down to 2 minutes? Can we get it down to 1.5 minutes? 99% is good enough. Yeah. And if you want to use Python or something else, my question is always, how do you address that with a customer? Do you say, yeah, you can use this file, but you've got to download Python? When you download Python, it's like downloading something dodgy in the 1990s. When you go and download Python, it's like it or not, Excel has this credibility because people know what Excel is. They know it's by Microsoft. I ain't going into bat for Microsoft, but people know what it is. You go to the Python website, you're like, okay, guys, what's this? You know, it's just the reality of what's going on. So that's my view. You know, you're absolutely welcome to hold your view, and I'm just putting out my views there. Kolovit says, yeah, so good to see you with us, Kolovit. Kolovit says VBA is boss and underrated. You can use the libraries and do all things you want, a lot outside. You can scrape data from the internet, write data. You have Windows API access. I think this is a great comment. I mean, I'm only scratching the surface with VBA, but this is it. Even with just a little bit of VBA, you can get so much stuff done. So if you want to go deeper, Kolovit has just put some interesting ideas in the chat there. Good. Enjoy golf again. Said just purchased the basics course. Fantastic stuff, Sam. Really good to hear. Looking forward to further my knowledge of Excel and Excel VBA. Great stuff, Sam. Yeah, so Sam's just gone ahead and purchased the Excel basics course. If you use the discount code today, use the discount code HelpDesk15, which will expire at about 6 o'clock today. You can get the Excel basics course, and you can join Sam and a whole load of other learners who are having fun in there. Good. So Python will not fast replace Excel. I don't think so, because Excel is so deeply ingrained in so many people's lives and so many organizations. So I think that's unlikely. And as you said, Kolovit, it's for more general purposes. Sridhar says, can you explain the codes for importing file names in a folder in a separate Excel file? Importing file names in a folder in a separate Excel file. Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're trying to do, Sridhar. I don't think I have a tutorial on that. That's because the code that I have to do that is, it's not very clear and concise. To be honest, it's some code that I don't fully understand myself, the code to do that. I only do tutorials on code that I understand 100%. So you're going to have to go for Google there, Sridhar. I would say it's 100% possible. I do it on lots of my projects, but I haven't got a tutorial, I'm afraid, for that one. Good question here from Henrik. I heard somewhere you started your career as a VBA developer in the local cricket club. Is that true? What did you help them with? There's some truth with that. There's some truth with that. The first ever analytical project I did was in 2008, and I did a project for a professional cricket club in the UK. And it was about the economic impact of cricket, which I don't know if it sounds interesting, but the basic idea was, when we have a cricket match, how many people come and how much money do they spend? How much economic activity does our cricket club generate, which is really useful information for all kinds of reasons. So that was how it all started way back in the day. So yeah, if you want to get into VBA consultancy, you know, you do have to have, it's going to be very helpful to have a network, to have a network of people. And, you know, I play cricket. So a cricket club, most people at the cricket club aren't playing cricket. Most people are networking or drinking. So it's quite a nice place to go and just hang out. But, you know, my strategy is be the Excel guy, you know, and people on the channel would have heard me say this, be the Excel guy. Even at the cricket club, I was telling people, I'm doing Excel. If you've got any Excel problems, come to me, because everyone's using Excel. Not everyone's using Python. Everyone's using Excel every day. Just get known as the Excel guy in the communities around you. Start with your own family. Yeah, start with the people around you. You'll be surprised how quickly that can grow. Good. I think we covered all the questions in the chat. Okay, Ragul says, any example of video for Excel button creation? So Ragul, could you tell me exactly what you mean there? Do you mean how to create a button to run a macro? We can do that. Or do you want code to actually create the buttons? If you can give me more information there. Yeah, I'm happy to do one more tutorial today, guys. I think I've got energy for one more. So yeah, what do you want me to cover? We've already covered in VBA, the range and the cells techniques in VBA. We've covered our example here, which is using the if formula and using and in particular to specify two conditions. What else do you want us to cover today? I'm happy to do something with buttons, but it's like I need a bit more specific information about exactly what the problem is, because I always want to teach it in the context of what you'll be doing in the real world, you see. Good. Okay. Yeah, Henrik says you can, through Excel, work in Word, PowerPoint, through program apps. Absolutely. You can also work with Outlook, a project we're doing at the moment. We've got a VBA file that creates a load of emails at Outlook and sends them to people internally in the company, and it saved this company like huge amounts of time. So that's another example of advantage of VBA. You can easily interface with other programs in the Office suite. So Henrik's mentioned Word and PowerPoint, also Outlook, and I'm sure you could interface with Access and even things like Visio if you wanted to do that. Yeah, Kovalit has got some advice for Sridhar, who is looking for information about looping through files in a folder. Okay, Beast Pro Shadow, welcome. Do you have a tutorial on how to perform recursions, pulling multiple files with similar names from different folders to another folder through a loop? I don't have a tutorial on it. You would be able to do it in VBA. I would say get started with a Google search. Good. Bruno says he probably doesn't know what the other buttons are for or how they are used. Yeah, when we're talking about buttons in, let me just go, any example of Excel button creation. Okay, let's do some work quickly on buttons. Okay, so let's say the role of buttons in Excel VBA. And go ahead, and any further questions, guys, yeah, just put them in the chat. But let's do some button creation here. I'm going to go into sheet 3 here, Alt-OHR on the Windows PC, change the sheet name. Just changing the sheet name here. It's behind the obscure behind the caption there on the screen. But let's say buttons here. Okay, firstly, let's create a button to trigger a macro. You know, that's the most common reason you'll have a button in a spreadsheet would be to trigger a macro. So let's suppose we want a button in the spreadsheet to trigger this macro, which is just going to put Chris in cell A1. How would we do that? Well, you've got to go to developer and then go to developer here. And then we go to insert and insert button. So button form control is what I recommend. You do have some other options, but ActiveX controls and stuff, I recommend you use form controls. So you click on button there and just note how the pointer has changed. The pointer's changed to this cross, almost like a crosshairs, isn't it? But don't worry, nothing violent happening on this stream. Now my tip is to hold down the Alt key if you're on the Windows PC. Hold down the Alt key, and that's going to give us a button. It doesn't appear straight away, but Excel does give us this dialog box. Excel is saying, which of the macros that you've already written do you want me to run when you click this button? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Let's go for cells technique. No, let's go for range technique, which I think is the range of the name of the macro. Where does it get those macros from? Well, it's this text here. So we've got range technique, cells technique, cells with values from spreadsheet. These are all macro names. These are all macro names. They're going to be listed in when we choose what macro we want to run. If you want to see all the macros in the file, by the way, you can go to tools and then macros. You can get them all listed there. And you can even step into or edit the macros. That's going to allow you to, you know, actually go and do something to one of those macros. But we've got a button in the file now. And we've got a macro allocated to that button. So when I click on the button now, you're going to see our macro runs and our value is going to appear in A1 there. Just to prove that, I'm going to put a stopping point or a break point in the code. So if you click in this margin here, just click on this line of code and then hit button 1. Excel is going to try to run the code because there's a breakpoint there. Excel can't go any further. But that's evidence to us of where Excel is going. Excel's going into this macro, which is the macro we specified when we assign the macro. If I hit F8 now on the Windows PC, or you can go to debug and step into that's going to run the line of code. You can now reset the VBA editor. So that's just basic button creation. So I'm not sure if that's helpful for you, Ruggle, but Ruggle has said thanks, good stuff. Maybe we'll have a look at other ways to trigger macros in just a second. Yeah, thanks very much, Jenny. Yeah, I don't know how many Mac users we've got, but I've got to say I know nothing about Mac. Yeah, I need to know more. I need to start using Mac more. But yes, so I tend to give the shortcuts on Windows PC. In the Excel Basics course, special discount on today, link in the description. In the Excel Basics course, you get all the keyboard shortcuts for PC and for Mac. So we spent the time to actually go and list them all out on Mac as well. I think there's like 200 shortcuts that we use on the course. You get all of those itemized. So thank you to that, Jenny. That's really helpful. Lee says, is this going to be a weekly thing? I'm not sure. I'm seeing how it's going, Lee. I'm going to see how it's going. So I've been happy with the reaction today. So I thought it might just be, you know, me and you, Lee, having a chat, which would have been fun, admittedly. But I think it's been a success today. So I think definitely monthly and possibly one day, maybe fortnightly, you know, we'll see. Good. Henrik says, is initialize or assign a value to a variable in Excel the same thing? So Henrik, assigning a value to a variable, let's do a quick demonstration here. Let's bring this into your screenshot first. There we go. So I'm going to say sub variable demo. Okay, so assign a value to a variable. Okay, we're going to declare a variable first. So a variable is just a place to store information. It's one of those intimidating computer programming words. It's just when we're doing stuff in Excel, when we're moving things around, we need to store stuff. You know, I want to come back and use that information later. So it's just like a little drawer, like you have a little drawer in your desk. You're creating a little drawer. You're going to open it, put something in there, and then later you're going to come back and get it. That's all a variable is. And then we have different types of variables. That helps Excel to organize its memory efficiently. So let's have a, I'm going to say Chris variable as string. So my variable is going to be a string variable, which is the variable we use for text. The variable we use for text. What are the main variables in Excel? There's only 3 or 4 you're going to use, really. The main one is integer, which is a whole number. String is text. That's pretty much it. Those two are the most basic ones. The only ones you need to worry about, certainly to begin with. Okay, so this variable equals. And let's say, welcome to the help desk here. Welcome to the help desk. Yeah, okay. So this is going to put the value into the variable. So if I step through this code, going to hit the F8 key on the Windows PC, debug and step into. Jenny, do you know the Mac shortcut, by the way, for stepping through code? The Mac shortcut for stepping through code. If you use the F8 key, the code is going to run, but nothing's going to happen yet because it's all happening behind the scenes. But behind the scenes, Excel has created this variable. It's just we can't see it. So let's externalize that variable. Let's use it. Let's create a message box here. What's going to happen when I run this code? If you're watching on the replay, big welcome. Thanks for joining us on the replay. Pause the video now and just think what's going to happen. Yeah, it's trial and error. So always try to understand what's going to happen, and then you'll see, does it happen or not? And if it does happen, that's good news. If it doesn't happen, that's an opportunity to learn something. So I'm going to hit play now, and you can see welcome to the help desk is flashing up. So that's because we've asked Excel to display the variable. Now, when we do that, Excel displays the value that is assigned to the variable, the value that is assigned to the variable. So if there's nothing assigned to the variable, let's just demonstrate this quickly. Let's say Chris variable. Well, let's see what happens now if we play the code. We've got nothing there because we've declared the variable. We've got the drawer in the cupboard, but there's nothing in it. We haven't put anything in it. It's empty. So that's why nothing is displayed. So this process, Henrik, this is what I would call an A equals B operation, which is another one of our Excel VBA building blocks. That allows us to assign a value to a variable. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. We'll cover initializing a variable in just a second. Good. And Beast Pro Shadow said, doing or helping with projects live seems very interactive and dynamic than the normal tutorial you find on YouTube. We'll definitely tune in for these style sessions. Yeah, fantastic stuff, Beast Pro Shadow. And yeah, I hope you'll join us for future sessions. I would say if you enjoy this, guys, I don't want to turn this into a massive sales pitch, but we have a unique membership community. It's called Members Monday. We meet twice a month to do this. You also get access to all the previous membership streams, and you get access to an exclusive forum where I'll answer your questions and other members will answer your questions. People like Bart, people like Lee, people like Nikki, who's in the chat, they are our members. Good, so let's cover initializing a variable quickly. All you're doing when you're initializing a variable is making sure it's clean, making sure there's nothing in the variable. So I would call this declaration. When we create the variable, I would call this initialization, and then I would call this assignment of a value. So it's a bit of a semantic kind of discussion. It's an academic discussion, really weird to talk about what the different words mean, but we have to declare a variable first. That's to create it. Now, this is not necessary, but is good practice. Why should you do this? Why should you do this? That's my question. So it's what, 3:30, 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. People asking you technical questions about code. What's going on? Where's your life going? I have those moments many times. Don't worry. Why would it be helpful to do this? Why would you initialize a variable? Lee, Members Monday is very good. More from the point, if you don't know the answer, someone in the community will help. They've helped me many times. Absolutely. Yeah. We run Members Monday through a Facebook page. You know, you don't have to be a big fan of Facebook, but you can just make an account, which will get you onto Facebook. And yeah, you just put a post on there. And it's like having an internet forum that's very, very high quality. You know, someone will get back to you quickly and you're likely to get a very high quality answer. So that's Members Monday. It's about $13 a month. Jenny says, Shift, Command, and I, if you want to step in through the code on the Mac, so you want to go debug and step into Shift, Command, and I is the way to do that. So thank you very much, Jenny. Great contributions. Yeah, so you'd want to initialize the variable because sometimes variables come into the routine with values already assigned to them. When might that happen? So Ragul says, initialization is important to prevent random memory errors, maybe, possibly. It's more important in the context of our discussion today to make sure the variable doesn't hold a value already. And I'll just go ahead and demonstrate this quickly. This will probably be the last demonstration today, guys, because I am feeling the pace a bit. But we'd call this declaration a routine level declaration. That's because the variable is declared inside a routine, and a routine is another name for a macro. It's a routine level declaration, but you don't have to declare variables at the routine level. You can declare variables at module level. So I'm going to go ahead and take this declaration, Control X here on the Windows PC, and put it at the top. Now, if you have the variable up at the top there, that variable can be passed between routines. It can be passed between routines, which means maybe when we use it in this routine, it will have a value previously assigned to it from something else the VBA has been doing. That's possible. So that's why we need to initialize. We're just making sure there isn't anything already in the variable. So I hope that makes sense. Henrik, and let me know if you've got any further questions. And I'll just pop the link in the chat, guys. But yeah, if it was great to have Tom on earlier. But if you want to drop in the stream, have a bit of a chat, maybe talk about some less technical stuff, talk about Excel in the context of your career, Excel in the context of a job interview, you know, whatever it might be, you're very welcome to join me live in the session. All you have to do is follow that link and just close the YouTube window, because that will create an audio loop. close the YouTube window, follow that link in, and we'll be able to see you backstage, and we'll add you into the stream. Great stuff. Yeah, and Bart is another one of our members as well. It's always a lot of Excel fun and really nice for people to learn more about Excel. Bart's been there since the beginning. Yeah, so Bart was actually our first member. So when I started the membership, this was in November 2019. You know, I was looking at the membership interface, thinking, have we got any members? Have we got any members? Then Bart's name popped up. He was our first member, and yeah, Bart's been in the membership for what, a year and a half now, and it's just worked out really nicely. You know, it's not too big, it's not massive. It's like a big class, but that's a really nice number of people to work with. Henrik says, it was very good, Chris. Okay, good. So I think the explanation made sense. And Henrik says, will MM only include VBA in the future? I see modeling as crucial for me to learn. Yeah, very good, Henrik. And it's good that you seem to have absorbed some of the concepts we've been teaching today. So what are you actually trying to do in Excel? Are you trying to automate data analysis or modeling or data input? Which of the applications are you trying to do? And Henrik is saying, I see modeling as crucial for me to learn. Well, the answer is yes. And again, this isn't, I wasn't planning to sell Members Monday, but I'll just tell you the facts of it. In Members Monday, we cover everything, all things Excel. So we cover VBA, we cover Formulae. If you're thinking about modeling, then you need Formulae, because modeling is all about creating those calculation chains, input, process, output. We cover it all on Members Monday. Formulae, automation with VBA, data analysis. Couple of weeks ago, we covered creating an online form and pulling that into Excel. User forms, we've covered Excel charts. We cover everything. It's very much member driven. So I try to cover when we get a question and maybe someone else says, yeah, I'd really like to know about that, and make sure that we cover it. Amruta's here. So a big welcome to the stream, Amruta. So if we say very formal, thank you. You don't have to call me so. Call me Chris Amruta. It's all good. Thank you for joining us. If we select an option from a list drop down, then I have to update the info in another worksheet. How to do it without using VBA. So Amrita, sounds interesting. I'm not quite sure what you mean though. Do you mean you want to update the drop-down menu, or do you want something to update when you change the value in the cell using the drop-down menu? Not absolutely clear. I don't fully understand what you're asking for. You can put some more information on in the chat. Then we will deal with your question. Any further questions, guys? So I plan to keep going until the questions run out. I'll keep going. As I said, I can't keep doing lots and lots of technical stuff, but we are running out of questions a little bit, so maybe we'll wrap it up soon. So yeah, if you've got any questions, guys, pop them in the chat. I'll keep going as long as the questions keep coming in. Amrita says, I want data to update. So if you're changing a value in a cell and using a drop-down menu, and then you want something else to update on that basis, then you need a formula. You need a formula to do that, because a formula means immediately when you change a value in one cell, a value in another cell is going to change. So from the information you give me, Amrita, I'm not sure if I'm understanding fully, but from the information you've given me, that's why I'd say. So you'll need a formula to do that in the spreadsheet. Good. Any further questions? Any further questions today? We'll give it a couple of minutes here. Yeah, so get your questions in, guys. If you want to continue, get your questions in the chat. I'm very happy to continue to chat. Oh, welcome to Steve. Rahul will deal with your questions in a second. So Steve, big welcome. How are you doing, Steve? And yeah, put a question in the chat, Steve. If the questions keep coming, we'll keep going. If not, we'll wrap it up today. So put your questions in the chat. Rahul says, any details on the next live session? This is good live stuff. At the moment, I'm thinking of doing this monthly on the last Friday of the month. Monthly on the last Friday of the month. If it's popular, I'll consider doing more. If there's lots of questions coming in, I'll consider doing more as well. But at the moment, it's going to be once a month. And as I said, Rahul, just so you know, we have a member community. You can read about it on the website where we do this twice a month. Good. Amruta says, I want to know that formula. Yeah. Well, it depends what you want the formula to do. It could be a VLOOKUP formula. It could be an if formula. It depends on what you want the operation to do. But let me just demonstrate quickly. You know, one thing that a lot of people don't understand in Excel is just how you can link the sheets together. Yeah. So for example, just very simply, I'm going to link the value on this sheet to the cell on this sheet. So, okay, on sheet 3 now, I'm going to create a formula saying equals, and then I'm going to click on the button sheet at the bottom. I'm just going to remove this comment so you can see. Click on the button sheet, and then I'm just going to click on that cell. Yeah, that's created a very simple formula, but it now means that whatever value I input in buttons, let's put Bart's name in here, that value will be pulled through. That value is pulled through because we have a very simple formula here. Yeah. So we can use Formulae across sheets to pull values across sheets. So maybe that's what you want, Amruta. Maybe it's as simple as that. Amruta says, I know that one. Amruta, there's lots of explanations of Excel Formulae on the channel. So perhaps check out some of the videos there. Lee says, if you have a load of buttons that are linked to individual macros, rather than have all the buttons on the sheet, would it be better to put all the macros in a table and select them from there? Interesting question, Lee. Let me just digest that. If you have a lot of buttons that are linked to individual macros, rather have all the buttons on a sheet, would it be better to put all the macros in a table and select them from there? It depends what you're trying to do. First, I'd say if you've got lots of buttons, my first question is, well, are they running in a sequence, those macros? If the macros are running in a sequence, then remember, we can call one macro after another macro. Let's go back into the VBA editor quickly. So for example, if I go to this macro and then at the bottom, I'm going to say call cells technique. There we go. That means this macro is going to run. And then once it's finished, it's going to go and run that macro as well. So let's just demonstrate that quickly. Okay, so I'm going to hit the F8 key now on the Windows PC. There we go. So that error was Excel was saying, I can't find a macro with that name. Excel's absolutely right. So we were missing an S there, so a basic syntax error. So I'm going to hit the F8 key now, run this macro. Now we're going to see Chris appear in A1. There it is. Now just watch where the code goes. Going to hit the F8 key. Now we go to the next macro. So now we've got the next macro running. So that would be my first thought on that one, Lee, is are you running the macros in sequence? If you are, then you don't need to click one and then the next and the next. You can just use a line of code in VBA to make them run in sequence. Now, what you'll find in my professional applications, there's one master macro that controls how the other macros are running. So there's one macro at the top and it's like call macro 1, call macro 2, call macro 3. That means you can have what's called a modulated approach, So you've got all these little parts of the code that are nice and small and concise and easy to manage and portable. You can do other things with them. And then you're calling them from this one master macro. That's preferable to having a single macro that does everything, because long macros are just kind of difficult to work with, as you know. So I'm not sure if that answers your question at all, Lee, but that's what I'd look at. And think about football processes. If I'm managing a long football process, you know the kinds of things that we do in the football community. Just for another sales pitch, we also have a football community that Lee's a member of. If you want to learn how to analyze football data, I do 2 videos a month for the football community. You also get access to a forum and stuff. You can read about that on the website. Yeah, but if you're managing a process, I would have in the spreadsheet all of the functions you're going to do in that process written out. So in a table, like, okay, locate fixture file, import fixtures, run analysis, export selection, say they're the 4 processes you want to do, then maybe have one on each row with a button for each of those processes. Then you can do nice stuff like this. Like, for example, you could say, this is the kind of thing I do if I'm managing a long process, I'd say process run, and then I'd say complete, yes or no, and then I'd say time completed. So for example, if this is process one, I'll just get rid of this for now, I'll just comment this out. But if this is process one, I'll then say range C3 equals done. And then I'd say range D3 equals now. And this now function in VBA is just going to put the day and time in the cell. So let's just resize these cells, Alt-HOH 20 here. You have this kind of table. You'll go process one, process two, process three, process four. Let's do that quickly. Equals process. So if you ever have to do this, you want to write 1, 2, 3, 4. I do it using a row formula. So I've got a row formula there. Then I want row -2 because we're currently on row 3. Hit that and pull it down. And the Ian's process that we were talking about earlier, that has, I think it's got 22 processes. And they're all modulated. They're all modulated. So if there's a problem, we can see it specifically that process is problematic. Because if it wasn't modulated, it would be impossible to understand. It would take ages anyway. So now it's like, that bit's not working. Let's take it out. It's almost like when you take your car to the garage. You know, that bit's not working. Take it out, have a look at it, put a new one in, and then you're good to go. But now you have the effect, if I run this routine, just keep your eye on cell C3 and D3 here. If I run this routine, you can see that kind of thing happens. So it tells you that the process is complete and then the time that it was last run. Because of course you want to know, okay, it's complete, but when was it completed? Is that yesterday? Is that from last week? Something like that. So just some ideas then, Leon, how to organize, big processes. And I think in your development now, you're probably at that stage where you can start thinking about that. Very good. Any further questions? Come in. Oh, I've just seen further down you said I'm not explaining myself properly. Don't worry. I probably misunderstood as well. So Lee says, what I meant to say is I have 16 systems and 16 buttons on a worksheet. Am I best putting all the macros in a filter list, then selecting from the drop-down list? So it sounds like you don't want to, okay, I think you only want to run a particular macro for a particular system. So my instinct there, Lee, and I might be missing something, would be just have one button and then, have a drop-down menu to select the system and then get the macro to look at the system. Get the macro to look at the system and then have a conditional statement in the routine that says, if it's system 1, call system 1 macro. If it's system 2, call system 2 macro. So you only have one button in the spreadsheet, and then it looks at the drop-down menu, and that's doing the heavy lifting in the background. I think that's mainly, but just shoot me an email. We'll sort it out on the football group anyway. But thanks very much for the questions. Really good. WC says, thanks for today. In compliance, sounds scary, WC. In compliance, we play with text versus numbers. Any sessions on large spreadsheets with too much text? Yeah, this is a common problem because if a cell is formatted as text, and it often happens where you've got systems interacting. So if you, for example, I'm sure this is happening in your company, it might well be happening. You've got a big accounting system or some kind of system that logs transactions. You download it into Excel, then the numbers are going to appear as text rather than appearing as numbers. Happens all the time. You have similar problems with dates and stuff. I don't have a video on that, but I can give you some general pointers, some things that might help you. Firstly, equals value formula. Put the sheet in the file here. So equals value. That will convert text to a value. So look out for that. Maybe you need a column with a value formula next to where the stuff's going to come in to do that conversion effectively. You've also got the val function in VBA. So you say val and then whatever you want to convert in VBA. That will convert it to a value. So you've got two options there. they're your main options. I mean, what you're looking at is data cleansing. I'd call that data cleansing. And so you've got to have some controls in the spreadsheet, like the ones I've just shown you, to make sure that you're doing the conversion to numbers. But I think about it this way. I think about it more holistically. Think about the whole situation. Why are those numbers appearing as text, like in the first place? Why are those numbers appearing as text in the first place? Maybe if people are inputting those numbers into Excel, you can put data validation and formatting on the spreadsheet so that they come through as numbers. Yeah. So go to the source of the problem. If numbers are coming from another system, can you talk to the person that manages or develops that system to get them to put better data controls on it so that you get numbers in rather than text? I'm not sure if that's answered your question at all, but any sessions on spreadsheets with too much text? A few formulae for analyzing text. The left, right, mid formulae. There's a find formula if you want to look for particular characters. COUNTIF as well is good for analyzing discrete data. Just going to go down to the bottom here. Okay, I'm working through the questions, guys. Thanks so much for the questions. I'm going to work through them as we go now. Okay, just bear with me a second. Okay, question here from DL. Do you ever touch on Power Query? Yes, I've only really looked into that recently, but it's proved incredibly useful for data prep and cleansing. Yes, DL, I agree. Incredibly useful for data prep and cleansing. The reason I haven't used it more is because I tend to build VBA applications. And if you're building VBA applications, you can create that custom functionality in VBA to do what Power Query would do. But if you don't know VBA, or you don't want to use VBA, or you can't use VBA for whatever reason, then Power Query is a great way to do it. And it's a user-friendly way to do it as well. I've had just a few sessions with it. I've found it user-friendly and a nice interface. And yeah, I do recommend it. It's a choice between VBA and Power Query just for that. We're talking about data cleansing and collating data. Power Query is good at that. Once again, I just want to point out that VBA does many, many, many other things. So it's not just a straight comparison between the two. But yeah, if it suits you, if you can use it, particularly if you can't use VBA, I think it's a very nice option, Power Query. Question from Elena, maybe. To create an email with 3 recipients, emails account to CC. Yep. If you're using Outlook, this is fairly straightforward. So if you're using Outlook, you can just put it in Google, Excel VBA email, and the code is actually quite clean and quite easy to work with. If you're not using Outlook, it's a nightmare. The code is certainly more complicated anyway, if you want to put it into Gmail or something. I'm not sure if I tried to do that in Excel VBA, but if you're using Outlook, it's possible. I've done it on 3 or 4 projects, and it's actually been a real success for some of my clients as well. Good. Amruta, yeah. Thanks, Amruta. Sorry, I couldn't quite understand your question fully, but if you want to get involved with the next live stream, we'll see if we can help you some more there. Lee says, thank you. That will help when I'm running the fixtures selections. Brilliant. Much appreciated. Thank you, Lee. Okay, good. Question here from Sarath. When you append tables via Power Query, I think that is there a way I can change the layout to show the data in columns next to each other rather than below one each other? So it sounds like you want to transpose the data. Is that right? You want to change it from rows to columns? That sounds like a transition. Now, I'm not an expert in Power Query, but that sounds like the kind of thing that Power Query could do. I think Power Query could do that. So look at Power Query, do the usual Google searches, and look, there's some good YouTube tutorials as well. I would also say you could do that in VBA. So I don't know how confident you are with VBA, Sarath, but that's a classic situation of something you could do in a fairly straightforward way in VBA. It's not quite clear if Power Query does it or not. So it's probably an illustration of how VBA is really it's on a whole different level. Good. Ragul here. Any further questions, by the way, guys? Any further questions today? This is our last question that I can see so far. So any further questions, if you want to put them in the chat. You can also join us in the stream. It'd be nice to have a chat with somebody. So I'll put the link into the stream. You just click on that link, then close the YouTube interface. You'll join us backstage. You can see Bart is with us backstage. He's our backstage manager, our bouncer, and we'll be able to drop you into the stream. We can have a nice chat, and yeah, it'd be great to connect with you like that. And Ruggles says, I forgot an important question: how to have a GIT version of Excel workbooks? As many people working in the same Excel, there's a risk. Okay, GIT, I think you mean like a locked down version of an Excel workbook. So you can, of course, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you can lock cells in Excel. You'll have to let me know if you're aware of it. But say I wanted to, a common thing you might want to do is lock the cells that have Formulae in. So to do that, I've just selected the cells. This is not something I do much. Alt-H-O-E on the Windows PC brings up our general formatting box. Then you've got to go over to protection. Make sure those cells are locked. So you're going to click on locked there. Now, let's have a look at the other cells. Are they going to be locked or unlocked? All the cells seem to be locked. So I think first, do we have to unlock all the cells first? Alt-H-O-E. I'm going to select the whole spreadsheet, just clicked in the top left corner. I've unlocked all the cells now, because I just want to lock certain cells. You see how Excel has told me there's an unprotected formula here. That's quite helpful. I like that from Excel. And now we can select all these cells again. I'm going to change that box to locked, Alt-H-O-E on the Windows PC, change this to locked. Now, the reason people get confused is that this only comes into effect when you lock the sheet. So people often, this is what I used to do, I changed the value in the cell, but it didn't do anything because you've got to lock the sheet as well. So to do that, you go to review, I think, and then you go to protect sheet. This gives you options. You can password protect it here, make sure you write down the password and stuff. And then you've got various settings that you can adjust here. I want to allow the user to select unlocked cells. So they can't select the locked cells. I'm going to hit OK now. The sheet is now protected. So I can click on these cells normally. These are cells that I want to edit. These cells, I'm now clicking on it. It doesn't come through clearly on a live stream, but I'm clicking on these cells. I can't click on them. I can't even navigate to those cells. You can see how the active cell is jumping over those cells. So that's a nice feature. It's a good way to lock down a spreadsheet. What are the disadvantages? The reason I don't use it more is, firstly, I explain to my customers that they've got to be reasonably cooperative, and there's basic rules when you work with Tiger. You know, you can't add rows and columns, you can't delete sheets, you can't rename sheets. I make those things clear to my customers. If they do those things, if they can conform to those rules, then I found it's not usually a problem. Not usually a problem, although if it does occur, it could admittedly be disastrous. So you've got to look out for it. I find it's not usually a problem. It also means if you're doing stuff in VBA, you're going to have to unprotect the sheet using VBA. You're going to have to unprotect the sheet in VBA. If in VBA, I'll just demonstrate this. Let's try to change the value in cell G5. Get the VBA editor back. Change the value in cell G5 here. Just going to comment this out quickly and say range D5, G5 equals something. What's going to happen now? I'm going to hit the F8 key, and you can see we get the VBA error. This admittedly is one of the more informative VBA errors. One of the more informative VBA errors because it tells us what's wrong. In fact, it's almost like somebody completely different wrote this error message compared to the other error messages in Excel, which are sometimes quite difficult to decipher. Someone said, no, guys, I think this one, let's write it in understandable English. And yeah, great. Yeah, so you might be requested to enter a password. Okay, all makes sense. So you can debug now and you can see the problem. So how do you avoid that? Well, in VBA, you have to unlock the sheet in VBA. You can record the code to do that. You can find it online. You can also enter the password in VBA if the sheet is password protective. So that means the way I'd manage that long-term in a VBA application, I'd have a routine in VBA, which is called unlock sheet. Something like unlock sheet, and that would contain the code to unlock the sheet. And then I would call that routine. So something like I would call that routine before doing the other macros. Yeah, you see how I call that routine? That means the code here to unlock the sheet. That will allow you to unlock the sheet, and then you call that routine. I'd also have a routine to lock the sheet, and I'll call that again at the end of the macro. So it does create problems, guys. It does create problems with VBA. So generally, I try to avoid it. Rather than, I focus on engaging with people from the beginning to make them understand that in order to get all the magic of VBA, and it really is magical. And I love seeing the reactions of people who see an automated process for the first time. But that comes at a small price, and the price is you can't mess about with the file. Yeah, you can't put columns in, you can't put rows in, you can't be deleting stuff. But people will accept that once they see the benefits of VBA, once they see the benefits of your work. So maybe you don't need to do sheet protection at all. That answers your question, Ragul. Thanks for being with us today. And thanks to everybody. If you're with us for the first time, a big welcome. I think we're going to do this monthly. And just to let you know, we have a discount today on our Excel Basics course. If you like the way I explain stuff, I think some people do, not everybody. You can go and get our Excel Basics course for 15% off. It helps you rebuild your Excel foundation. 27 15-minute videos about the most important stuff that I use in Excel. It doesn't teach you everything in Excel. Teaches you quite a small toolkit, actually, but it's going to be super useful for you. Good. That discount is going to be on for about another hour, I think. Good. Coming up to 2 hours on the Excel Helpdesk. So really enjoyed it. I've got to say, I'm getting pretty tired now, but thanks so much for hanging out. We've still got 40 people here. Guys, keep getting your questions in. And we'll answer as many as we can, as long as I still have my voice. I am struggling a little bit. Okay. Amrita says, can you send me the list to drop down course? Amrita, if you go onto if you go to YouTube and you search Tiger drop down menu, you'll see our videos on drop down menus. Uman's GDBZ, welcome, my friend. Is DAX going to be worth learning for an Excel expert because it's a whole new language? I don't know much about what DAX is, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to disappoint. I really am a bit of an Excel specialist. I don't know a lot about other languages. But my answer would be, if I had to answer, I'd say if you have VBA, you don't need anything else. There's so many jobs and customers and viewers demand for Excel and Excel VBA. I'd even say you can make a career out of Power Query. You could be a Power Query specialist. There's enough demand for Power Query functionality for you to make a career out of it. I'd even say it's advantageous in the context of your career for you to be known as a specialist, okay? That doesn't mean you are a specialist. And this is an important distinction to make. You shouldn't be a specialist. I think you should be a generalist, but you should be known as a specialist. That's because people forget generalists, yeah? Do you remember that person you met at that networking event who does a bit of Excel, they do a bit of Python, they also do a bit of graphic design, and they do a bit of online content creation? Do you remember that person? No, yeah? So what I'm saying is, for your career, but you probably remember me, like, for example, because you think he's the guy on YouTube who does the spreadsheet stuff. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, in the context of your career, be a specialist, be known for one thing. I'm suggesting Excel is that thing, but it might not be Excel. It might be Power Query. It might be Formulae. Yeah. You might get a reputation in your company for being the VLOOKUP girl. Yeah. The VLOOKUP guy. Yeah, that guy's great at VLOOKUP. You'll be surprised how beneficial that could be for your career. So my advice is to go deeper on one skill rather than diversifying your skill set. You can see the amount of demand for Excel. We've probably had 500 people tuning into this stream. So that for me is another illustration of demand for Excel VBA. Henrik says, we already know you're not a big fan of user forms. What else? What other things in VBA do you not use? User forms, let me just explain about user forms. I do love the visual quality of user forms. I love how they help you to learn code as I said, particularly for visual people, because you can create something and put things in. From a learning perspective, they're great. Long term, you know, and people are welcome to disagree with me, and I might be missing something, but long term, I don't see a role for them in long term application design and development. That's because they're limited to a single file. You could say the same thing about VBA, but VBA can get out of a file and open other files and stuff. I think if people want to collect data, they're going to want to do that remotely. So they're going to want for people to be able to do that on a web browser, for example. So the idea of I'll send you the Excel file for you to input the data, that is now quite an old-fashioned way to do things. You know, I wouldn't do that with one of my customers anymore. Although think about it, I did do it a couple of years ago on a project and had a bit of regret about that actually. I would do it now using have an online form. I'd have an online form rather than a user form. Microsoft Forms you can use. That gives you the benefit, the really key benefit that anybody can use the form online. They don't have to have Excel, don't have to log into Excel. You just email them the link, fill out the form. Then using Power Query or just a simple data link, you can download the data into Excel. You can download the data from that form into Excel. So that's what I see substituting for user forms in the long term. And that's why I've moved away from user forms a bit, but I feel a bit hypocritical because I've got a series on user forms that does have hundreds of thousands of views, and they have their uses, definitely. They definitely have their uses. Should it be the first thing you learn? I would say no these days. Henrik says, what are the other things in VBA you don't use? I don't know what else I don't use, to be honest. My skill set has been learned on a need to know basis. I need to do that on a project, therefore I'm going to learn it. I've never looked at the whole of VBA, you know, surveyed everything that's available to me in order to learn it, because I don't think you could do that. I think there's too much to cover. Great, thanks for your questions, Henrik, today. Been really good contributor to the stream, so thank you. Okay, any other questions coming in? Jenny says, thank you. Look forward to the next one. Yeah, and thank you to Jenny. Jenny's been helping with the Mac shortcuts. So thanks to Jenny, and been leaving some nice comments on the channel. Good stuff. Thank you to Bart for putting the drop-down video in the menu. Ruggles says, thanks for all the efforts. Love this session. Have a great day ahead. Yeah, guys, look out for the next session. We'll do another one soon. This is the last 30 seconds you've got to drop a question into the chat. If not, we'll wrap up the stream. And Lee says, Chris, loved it. I'll drop you an email. Got to go down. Has got some football training to do. See you at the cricket in Nottingham. This is what I love about the Tiger community. There's people whose jobs depend on using Excel well. So Lee is going off to do some football analysis now to allow him to do his job better. Yeah. So that's what we're teaching at Tiger. We're not teaching Excel for Excel's sake. I'm teaching Excel for your Excel success. Yeah, whether that means pushing forward your career, whether that means automating a process, whatever it is. So that's what we're always teaching in context. And that is our approach on the Excel Basics course. Just a final plug for the Excel Basics course. For the next hour or so, there's a 15% discount. Bart will put the link in the chat for the final time. Allows you to rebuild your Excel foundation. If you've enjoyed hanging out, you're going to absolutely love the Excel Basics course. Even if you're quite advanced Excel, I think you're still going to get plenty out of the Excel Basics course. Henrik says, what beer are you going to drink tonight? I'm not sure, Henrik. I've currently got some Corona beers in the fridge. I didn't order Corona, but sometimes when you get online shopping, then they put a substitute in. So they didn't have the beer I wanted, so they put Corona in. I probably would never actually buy Corona, but we can't have Coronas, so I'm going to be having Corona beer tonight. Fantastic stuff. So thanks so much, guys, and I will put links in the chat to what we've discussed today. So why not come back tomorrow? You'll be able to find the particular topic that we're working. Maybe not tomorrow, but in the next couple of days, you'll be able to go back through the topics and really consolidate what you've learnt in this stream. So take care, guys. We'll have more videos coming in the next couple of weeks, and check out the Excel Basics course. The link is in the description.